And so look, I've kind of gone through these growing pains, and I'm not going to say it's perfect all the time, but it's definitely helped me get into creative flow, and that was the whole point. Hey guys, Aimon here, and this is where I explore my creative philosophies through video. And I'm hoping, even though this lens is manual and super wide, that I'm still in focus, but I don't really know. So hopefully it is for you. If not, just enjoy the B-roll. The key to creative focus is your environment. All right, let's rewind a little bit. So I used to live here about 2.5 years ago, and I was still in the developing stages of figuring out who I was as an artist, what kind of videos I wanted to make, what kind of music I wanted to make, exactly what I wanted to make. And I was experimenting and learning and doing a lot of things, and it was great. But because I was still in that figuring out stage, I didn't really have creative focus because I didn't know exactly what I was focusing on. So early 2018, I was living here with Krakenmill, but I moved out so that I could travel and not pay rent while I was traveling. So moved all my stuff back with my parents. Thankfully, they are amazing, and went traveling for quite a bit. And if you want to see some of those stories from my travels, just have a look at my channel. There's plenty of lessons that I've learned from them on there. And so when I got back from my first big trip, which is about 5 months, I dived back into my business, which was a video production business, corporate videos, you name it, all kinds of video stuff for clients, right? And that was awesome as well, to not have a huge amount of rent or whatever it may be to assist me to invest more time into my business to get it growing. And then of course 2019 rolls around, my friends invite me to travel, and I'm like, absolutely. So I lose all my clients and go traveling again. Thankfully all my stuff was still at my parents' house, and after that trip I moved back in, and then obviously 2020 happened, and you all know what's up with that. So the last few months I have been creating YouTube videos and music and that kind of thing, but I couldn't really pinpoint what it was that was stopping me from creating exactly the way that I wanted to create. I was creating and still getting quite a bit done, but I felt like there was something that was actually limiting me. And during that period I tried a lot of different things, and I was trying to produce music in different places and in different ways, and setting timers, and I tried everything with music and with video. And I made quite a bit of good content, but it wasn't the exact content that I wanted to be making. And I knew that I wasn't really getting into a great groove with it. So something had to be done, and I eventually figured out that it was my environment. Absolutely nothing to do with the people I was living with, like really loved living there and everything. But for some reason, and this could just be the fact that I'm a weirdo, but I really can only get into a creative flow state when I'm by myself. So recognizing this was a huge step for me, because I realized what I had to do, and that was move back out again. And this made me really sad because, I was living with my dog, and now my dog's there and I'm not with my dog. So, it's a sad world. So fast forward to a few months back, and Krakenmilk, who is still living here, Connor, huge shout out, he's an absolute legend. He needed a larger studio space to produce all this stuff because his YouTube channel was exploding. Again, check it out, you'll have a laugh, but just wait till the end of this video, okay? And so this unit became available once again. So it took me a few weeks to decide, and there was a lot of things that I was weighing up. You see, if I moved here by myself, I would be paying a lot more in rent, a lot more for internet. I would be paying a lot more for food. I would have to do, all of my own meal prep, make all of my own food, do all of my own chores, clean the place. There was essentially so much more added onto my life that I would have to do if I was living by myself. So it was quite a large decision that I had to make because my life was about to get a lot more expensive. So a few weeks went by, and I hadn't decided yet because my life was busy as it is, and having to decide on this other huge decision was just not what I wanted to do, But then it just so happened that somebody was going to move in. Somebody else was going to jump on the opportunity, and that was a forcing function for me to have to decide. So I made the decision and I moved out. It took me a whole weekend, and I was going to time lapse it for you, and I'm sorry I didn't, but it was hugely stressful. I had to move a bunch of different stuff over here. It took 4 car trips and then a whole bunch of setting up, as you can see by all of the stuff that I have. But essentially, I made the decision and I moved out, and now I've been here living by myself for about 2 weeks now. And it has been a very hard adaptation period for me to get used to all of those additional costs and things that I have to do, you know, becoming my own person again and cooking my own food and all this different stuff. Sidebar, who knew how hard it was, like making food for yourself 3 times a day? Like, guys, life is hard, okay? Like, hit me in the comments below, tell me I'm right. I mean, like, are you experiencing the same thing? Like, seriously, it's like rough out here. Jeez. So back to the main point. The whole reason I did this was basically an experiment to see if I could set up my environment to allow me to creatively thrive. I could optimize my creative space so that I could get into creative flow more often. And let me tell you, it has worked. It's only been 2 weeks, but almost every single day, because I have no distractions, no people around me, literally nothing that is stopping me from doing the things that I need to do. And because I have everything documented, I know what my goals are, and therefore I know what actions I have to take to get to my goals. All I have to do is actually execute. And when your environment is set up in a way that allows you to actually get into that state where it's so easy for you to create, let me tell you, it's magic. And this is gonna look different for everyone. You know, your environment might look entirely different to my environment. But the reason I've set it up in this angle is to show that I'm a little bit of a minimalist. And for some reason, the way my mind works, everything kind of has to feel really minimalistic and clean and, you know, not really much going on. It's like tidy space, tidy mind. You know, my friend made a joke about that when he came over. And I kind of laughed at it, but he's dead right. But when your environment is set up like that, there's way less things that are actually on your mind, and so you can actually get into the creative flow state that you really want to be in. And so yeah, as you can see, this is my living room, this is my podcasting space. There's not really much going on here, but as you can see from all the B-roll, this is the rest of my apartment, and I'm loving it. In reflection, there is a lot of downsides. I mean, number one, like, I'm living by myself. So there are times where potentially I'm not in the mood to create. And yeah, I have a lot of other things to do. And if worst comes to worst, I can play a bit of video games with my friends. And as soon as I tell people that I live alone, everyone's like, oh my God, do you just walk around naked all the time? Pfft, absolutely not. But there is the element of, you know, the lack of human connection all the time. And that's extremely important if you haven't figured that out already. But the flip side to that is that I can have people over whenever I am in the mood to actually socialize. And when I'm not, my environment is just set up for me to either be mindful or be creative or be disciplined. And those are kind of the 3 key elements of my mission statement, which I've kind of stolen from Donald Miller. If you don't know who that is, check out my video on how important story is a couple of months back. So that's kind of the concept, is that your creative environment is the most important thing to your creative focus. And I would love some feedback. I would love to know what you think about this. How is your environment set up? Is it optimized for you to create? Or if it's not, or if it's not something you've even thought about, how could you potentially change your environment to set it up in a way that would make it really easy for you to create the content that you really want to create? Even if it's drawing or music or whatever it is, you know? And if that means that you have to go through some growing pains, like moving out, moving to a different place, you know, something like that, then, you know, if you really want to create the stuff that you want to create, perhaps you have to go through those growing pains, because that's the only way that you'll actually become the person that you want to become. And so look, I've kind of gone through these growing pains, and I'm not going to say it's perfect all the time, but it's definitely helped me get into creative flow, and that was the whole point. And the amount of stuff that I've made in the last few weeks is insane to me. The amount of music and the amount of videos and the amount of podcasts and the business that I'm working on, it's all just flowing. And now that I'm in a groove with it, it feels effortless. And that is something that I would not trade for the world. I mean, if I could have my dog here, I would. I feel really bad about that. But looking back, that is not something that I would trade for anything else. Because creative focus and creating, that is what's truly fulfilling to me. Even if nobody sees my art, it's about me making something that is a reflection of my experience of life. That's kind of the concept, and this is my creative space. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully it's potentially challenged you a little bit. I'd love to know your thoughts on creative focus and your creative environment below, or feel free to direct message me on Instagram. I love hearing from you guys. I'm really loving this very small community that I'm currently building here. It's a lot of fun, and it's fantastic to get all the feedback that I get from you. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.